Hi, it's Annie Grace. Hi, how is everybody? How are you doing today? Before I forget, so first of all, I am going to talk today about something that was really the key for me, something called spontaneous sobriety. And when I started to research and understand what spontaneous sobriety was and how it came about, like, like big brain explosions, I couldn't believe that people weren't talking about this. I was like, what is happening? This is crazy. This is nuts. This is so much good information. And I have some of the key studies that I've used sort of throughout my research here today that I'm going to talk to you about and try to distill them into something that's really manageable and useful. So we're going to be talking about really the three keys to spontaneous sobriety and what the heck is it anyway? What the heck is spontaneous sobriety and what does it mean? And it's interesting because it doesn't necessarily mean abstinence. And it doesn't mean treatment, but it can mean that you can be helped through it, like you can get there faster. So I'm going to go through all of that. And then also I'm going to go deep. I've had lots and lots and lots of questions about the intensive. We're kicking off on the 1st. So we're going to go deep into your questions about the intensive as well as, which save the questions for when I get to Q&A because it's really hard for me to scroll back through the comments. But then put them in when I get to questions and I can answer any of the questions about the intensive. That is, and you can find your answers to at nakedmindcourse.com. We're kicking off in the 1st, super exciting. So, all right, spontaneous sobriety. So my dad he would call himself like, just like a superstar boozer in college. He's like, I drank with the best of them. I drank more than the best of them. I drank everybody under the table. It was just crazy. And then he literally just had a day, and this is how he described it. He's like, I just decided I was done drinking. And it was not like, there was no meetings, there was no intervention, there was no outside input, like anything. And so when I was born, like my dad wasn't a drinker. He's still not a drinker. He's never been a drinker my whole life. I mean, that means I'm 41 years old and he decided this before I was born. So 40 plus years, right? And I was like, okay, so when I started getting really curious about my own drinking and wondering, and I was like, Dad, like, how did you do it? And he's like, well, I just decided. I'm like, what do you mean you just decided? What does that mean? What does that look like? And it's funny because my dad also, he at the age of 38 just decided that he needed to do something for his health. And so he's like, I've went and looked around at all the options there were for exercise and decided that mountain biking was going to be my thing. And he has biked probably 75 to 80% of every single day since. And he's 72 now. So like he just decides something and he does it. Now, ironically, through all my research, I realized that same ability to just decide, just do it, go all in, be, really intense about your decision is also one of the personality traits that gets us stuck drinking in the first place. And if you've heard me at all talk about this idea of an addictive personality, which if you join us at the intensive nakedmindcourse.com, we go deep into this idea because it's so key to how we view ourselves and our own personal identity around this. But we go really deep into it, not only to free you from any shame and guilt that you've had that is just not useful in your life, but more importantly, or just as importantly, to really help you understand that actually all of the things that got you into drinking, these parts of your personality, they're not bad, they're beautiful. And they're the exact things that will get you free. And they're also the exact reasons. I know for me, I was looking around my life being like, oh, well, I'm successful, I'm doing good, everything's going, and it's just this one dang thing, this thing that I can't get control of, this little thing. And it was such kind of a thorn in my side because it wasn't as if everything felt like a wreck. It was like, this thing is a mess and I can't get a hold of this thing. And that left me in such a place of like, why? And am I weak? And am I out of control? And it's really great to do a deep dive on addictive personalities and start to see that, okay, the things that are beautiful about us are also the things that get us stuck. And that's so often the case, that tension between what makes something amazing and what makes something, painful is just really in just the moment or in the circumstance. So it's awesome. So that's kind of, I digress a little bit, but the first key to spontaneous sobriety, and so I've now researched this in depth, as you know, and we go very deep into this case. And just to frame what spontaneous sobriety is naturally ceasing or going back to levels that are no longer harmful an addiction. So whether that's an addiction to cigarettes or heroin or alcohol, it's naturally going from, okay, this is a problem, to no longer doing it or going back to levels that are not harmful. Now, often, and I will say this, most people that don't have abstinent spontaneous sobriety, meaning they're not going back to never drinking ever, but they're drinking again, just no longer at levels that are harmful, they often have a long break, okay, to really let themselves rebalance, rewire, all of that sort of stuff. So that's what the research says. This research in front of me here says it's quite often a 2-year break. And it's interesting because now if you're like I was and you're drinking and you feel like alcohol is the thing that's holding your whole life together, a 2-year break, I'm like, are you crazy? Like, I'm hard pressed to get my 1 day of not drinking in a week that I've made myself do just to prove to myself that I can do it, or my 30 days a year that I make myself do dry January just to prove to myself I don't have a problem. Don't talk to me about 2 years, that's nuts, right? But I think that's what's so beautiful about the intensive and going through the process at, again, nakedmindcourse.com is like, we walk through all of this to where you come out of, you don't stop drinking for the first 9 weeks, by the way. It's like and if you've already stopped, don't start again, and we go through all those details, but this is really a mindset shift. This is moving from the, I never get to drink again, I'm gonna take a 2-year break, are you kidding me? That sounds horrible, to, oh my gosh, this is awesome. I'm so thrilled that I never have to put that in my body if I don't want to, and that I can choose at some point if I do want to. It's totally with kind of both sides of my brain. It's not with this irrational, illogical cravings that it was before. So spontaneous sobriety is just like the natural remission of addicted behavior to points that are no longer harmful. And interestingly, fascinatingly, it is more frequent than any type of treatment, and it is more effective. Meaning, I think it's 75% of people end up recovering spontaneously, end up going from drinking problematically, in the case of alcohol, to never drinking again, or drinking at levels that are no longer problematic without any treatment over time, okay? And so, but the time that it takes, it can be a long time. It said sometimes between 18 to 20 years in some cases for an addiction to naturally run its course. Most people will spontaneously get better. And the truth is, then the 25% that don't spontaneously get better, they either go into treatment or they don't get better, and they live their life with it, or they die. And that's just the very tragic reality of the world, unfortunately. But the 75% of people who do get better, it takes often a very, very long time. So I said, okay, well, how can I do that? But how can I do it without it taking so freaking long? I don't want to be living in this situation I was about 10 years into really heavy drinking when I changed everything for myself. And with the process that we go through in the intensive. And so when I was like, I don't want to live with this any longer. I don't want to be on this roller coaster any longer. I don't want to be in this cycle of craziness and insanity any longer. I really want to be free. And so how can I do that? So I started looking at the literature about spontaneous sobriety and trying to understand what my dad did. And again, the first mind-boggling things were like, okay, it's more effective in terms of more people, more frequent, more people end up spontaneously recovering than getting treatment. But then it's more effective, meaning people who spontaneously recover, spontaneously obtain sobriety, are more likely to maintain it than treatment. And that is a very staggering statistic as well. I think don't quote me on this because I just read it and I don't remember exactly, but I think it's up to 59%. Whereas with treatment, we're talking 3, maybe 10 on the outset of really good treatment rehab facilities. It's very low percentage points. So the point is, okay, well, what is this thing? And what are the keys to it? And how can we make this happen in our own lives? So A, it doesn't take 18 to 20 years. And B, we can experience the effectiveness of it without going, being in the cycle of continuously going back to where we want to be. And so there's more than 3 keys. I'm going to share 3 with you today because I think they're the 3 really key important things. But the intensive, the entire program is based on this concept, is based on the idea of how can we get to a point where we are more effective in what we're doing when we're doing it 100% ownership of ourselves. And so it's not being pushed on us from anywhere else, and it's our choice which ends up making it much more effective. And how can we do it quicker? And that's the point. That's why I created the intensive. It took me more than 18 months to create, and a good 4 months of filming and whatnot. It's a very deep dive on all this stuff. Again, if you want to find out more about the details before I'm done and I get into all the Q&A, it's nakedmindcourse.com. So key number one is it's a locus of control. And what that means, it is the belief that I actually can do this. So I'm going to read you something specifically from this study. And this study, just for my science friends out there who want to know exactly what it is, here's the study, Spontaneous Remission from the Problematic Use of Substances, an inductive model. And it says, at the conclusion, it really says that this campaign should be designed to end the self-fulfilling prophecy that problem substance use careers are permanent and intractable. And what that means is that when people spontaneously recover and they spontaneously go to places of, not drinking at problematic levels anymore, not drinking at all, they do it when they realize they can do it. And I know that sounds so simple, but here's the fact. When I was in my years of trying to drink less, I was at a point where I was very close to just coming to terms with not being able to, because I had tried everything I knew how to fix the problem. I had tried to make the rules for myself. I tried, not drinking until 5 p.m. I tried not drinking except on the weekends. I tried taking one day off a week. I tried all of these rules and I couldn't do it. And so my self-esteem, my self-worth, my self-respect was on this negative spiral downward, downward, downward. And so when we get to this point, which by the way, society confirms, there is this idea in society that once you're addicted, you're always addicted. Once you're an alcoholic, you're always an alcoholic. Once you're in trouble with alcohol, you're always in trouble. And so, and we go at this and we say, the question is, am I an alcoholic? That's the wrong question. The question, should be totally different. Like, what would my life look like? It should be a positive question, because your brain is like a computer. And if you ask it, am I an alcoholic? It's going to come up with an answer. And generally, the answer to that question is not going to be yes. Why? Because of how painful that yes might be and what it might entail for your life, how much you have to give up. So you're never going to say yes to that question. I shouldn't say never. You're most likely not going to say yes to that question and actually take the steps you need to get help until things have deteriorated to such a point where you can no longer say no. However, if we are, and at that point, there's a huge sense of learned helplessness. That I can't do this, that it's just beyond me, that it's out of my control. Whereas, and actually, interestingly, that's one of the key tenets. It's like, okay, I've lost control over this. So I'm admitting that, and then I'm going and I'm getting better through this series of meetings where, interestingly, and I never am going to bash AA because I think it's a beautiful, beautiful program. Thank goodness for it. We didn't have anything before. But interestingly, the polar opposite of that is what spontaneous sobriety science seems to say. It says that actually understanding that you do have control, that you are not doomed, that 75% of people actually naturally get better, it just takes a long time, and understanding that you are the one in power is the first key to spontaneous sobriety. And it may seem like a small thing, but trust me, and if you've been there, you know exactly what I mean. When you're in a place where you literally don't even feel like you have control over your own choices, where you're having 2 drinks after promising yourself you weren't, and then waking up the next morning, not even knowing how it happened, not even understanding like how it happened, you don't feel like you have control anymore. You do start to feel helpless. But again, this should be designed to end the self-fulfilling prophecy. Society has created this self-fulfilling prophecy that substance use careers are permanent and intractable. They are not. And that is one of the beautiful things about this research, is that it's not permanent. And one of the first things you need to do is understand that you do have control. And so within the intensive, we build on success. We take a whole entire mindset shift. We give you back your locus of control, your internal autonomy, your ability to make your own decisions. We explain to you why you feel like you've lost it, because we all have it to begin with. Trust me, I have a 2-year-old. Does she feel like she's in control of the world? Yes, she does. So does every single 2-year-old out there, right? Unless they've had some, extraneous circumstance. But we feel like we are the masters of our own fate and the masters of our own destiny. And then something comes into our life, in my case, alcohol, and it beats us up and it pushes us around. And all of a sudden, we can't control something. And we're like, what in the world is going on? And it like sucks at our self-worth. It sucks at our self-respect. It sucks our soul, because we don't feel like we have any control. We literally do start to feel powerless. And so step 1 is getting your power back. And through the science, understanding all those places where you felt powerless, all those places where you made a completely illogical decision despite knowing better, all of those instances where I promised myself not to drink and I drank anyway, or I drank despite bad negative repercussions, like really upsetting my husband or whatever the case is, all of those situations, we take you through and help you understand why. What is happening inside your brain to explain that? Oh my gosh, the relief of understanding what is happening in your brain, chemically, physically, literally physically, like the brain matter that you've built up around alcohol. We talk about dendrites, we talk about all of this very specific science, because once you get that, you can say, oh, I get why I didn't have control there, but it doesn't mean I don't have control overall. It doesn't mean I can't take back control now. And so that's key number 1. You have to believe you can do it. And so many of us come to this believing we can't. And you take your power back, you take your agency back. It's that locus of control. So that's key number 1, spontaneous sobriety. Key number 2, I love this so much, you guys, because in my heart, I just knew this to be true. And when I say it, I think in your heart, you probably know it to be true too. But when I can see it in black and white, printed in, so many of these studies, and I can say, yes, now they've studied it, this is true. Number 2 is we have to take the shame and the blame out of the equation. It says literally that when people's mistakes are met with shame and blame, they prolong. When, on the other hand, our natural process, by the way, sobriety does not look like, whether it's spontaneous sobriety or whatever, it doesn't look like here you are drinking. I don't have a very thick marker. Should have thought about that before. Okay, here we go. So it doesn't look like this. Like here you are drinking, this is you, right? And you're down here, and then here's sobriety up here. And it doesn't look like a straight line, okay? You just go there. No, it looks like this, you guys. Everybody's path looks like this. It has highs and lows. Some of the lows are lower than when you first started. That's just how it is. But we don't celebrate that. We don't celebrate that the path is going to be full of mistakes and obstacles and bumps. We actually say 100% is success. You're sober, you're successful. You mess up one time and you failed. You get your chip taken away in certain cases, or your spouse is really upset, or they're really you've let yourself down. And so we have so much shame around the very thing that's getting us better. Because the getting us better is the data points of taking new information into your mind, new science, new ways of seeing things, all of which we go through in the intensive, again, at nakedmindcourse.com. We go through all this, you take in the new information, and then you process it, and you go out and you fall right on your face. And then you say, oh, but now I have a new way of looking at this, and you learn. Do you think that we learn to walk without falling down? I mean, give me a break. In the falling down, again, I have a 2-year-old, so these are a lot of toddler references. In the falling down, the muscles in the legs are built by getting back up, right? Do you understand that? It is not the absence of falling down. It is in the falling down that we build the very muscles that enable us to do the walking by standing back up. And when you feel like when you fell down back to that locus of control, that you're hopeless, that you're out of control, that there's no chance, when it is, what did I say, that self-fulfilling prophecy, that there is no solution, when you feel like that, when you fall down, there's a very natural effect to that. And it's actually, excuse me for using this word, but it's called the what the hell effect. That's a scientific term. It's literally named that. And this effect means, oh, well, what the hell? I had one, I might as well have a 12-pack. I had one donut, I might as well eat the entire cake. That is how the brain is wired when we think that our mistakes are just going to, if we're going to pay for it anyway. I have a friend, he tells this hilarious story. He wasn't allowed soda, but his dad had a secret stash of Mountain Dew. And they were like another like very hippie family, grew up on basically a homestead plantation sort of thing. And so his dad had the secret stash that they didn't know about, and they found it one day when the parents were out of town overnight. And so it was him and his little brother, and they found 12 Mountain Dews. And they were like so tempted. So they drank one. And then they realized that the dad knew how many there were. So they're like, well, we're already screwed. We're already in big trouble. And they literally each drank 5 more Mountain Dews, which cracks me up. And they made themselves super, super, super sick. But how familiar is that? I mean, how familiar is that when we have this, I'm going to be in trouble anyway. So key number 2 is that we actually have to shorten the length of time to getting better by accepting that it's up and down and celebrating and supporting each other and supporting ourselves, most importantly, through the up and down and up and down. Okay, so that's key number 2, so important. And then key number 3, I love this. And interestingly, it's in this research, but I've also read a book recently called Atomic Habits. You might have heard about it. It's really going gangbusters on the bestseller list right now. And it's a little dry, but it's like a really practical, like very, I mean, somebody who wrote this was like so process driven. So it's like so practical. And anyway, in this book, they talk about this idea of when you are trying to build a habit. So often we go into the new habit with our old identity, right? So say you want to build an exercise habit. That's what's so amazing about something like CrossFit, for example, because you walk in the doors of CrossFit and you adopt a new identity. You become somebody who does CrossFit and everything that comes along with that. And so because it's your new identity, you stick with it for a lot longer, right? Because you've actually put on a new identity. Now, the same thing has happened for me in my practice with Taekwondo. I've been doing this for, man, I guess it's almost 5 years now. And you actually go and like now I know how to break boards, multiple boards, and I can, do all of this cool stuff, flying kicks and all this stuff. And I've put on this new identity of like this warrior almost identity. And so it keeps me going. Whereas if I'm just, trying to get on the Stairmaster, like I don't have a Stairmaster identity. And so key number 3, according to this research, is you need a new identity. But the new identity, this is the words, okay? A new non-stigmatized identity. That's key number 3. What? So we do offer a new identity in a lot of these situations. Hi, my name is Annie and I'm an alcoholic. And the research says that new identity is not necessary. You can move through. I think that people do move through the shame of that and do feel like very proud of that. And I think that's amazing. And I think there's a lot of goodness in that. But for a lot of people, that's really tough. That's really tough to get to a place where you are saying, no, I'm proud to be an addict. I'm proud to be an alcoholic. This is where I am, right? And I know for me, I didn't get there. I don't call myself an alcoholic. And I think that the new identity, like I call myself alcohol free. I call myself a non-drinker. I like to say, no, I don't drink. I actually revel in saying that these days. Like if I'm going out and it took me probably a year to really, I think I was kind of like that from the beginning, let's be honest. I've been a bit gung-ho about this whole thing since the beginning, but I go out and people are like, what do you want to drink? Oh, we don't drink. No, I don't drink. Just leave it. Strap that little bomb in our society. It's super fun for me. But anyway, like that's my identity. I don't drink. And I think it's badass. And I think it's on the fringe. And I think it's the minority who actually knows something the majority doesn't. And so I have adopted this identity that feels really good to me, right? I used to run a lot. And I remember when I was running a lot, I bought the running clothes I went and got fitted for the running shoes. I subscribed to Runner's World magazine. I had my running journal, right? Don't we do this stuff? We do this stuff to adopt this new identity, but it can't be, and you don't have to go like, my husband doesn't drink anymore either. That's a whole other story, but he doesn't adopt this like new identity. You don't have to fly your flag or anything, but inside your heart, you know, coming to a place where that new identity is reinforced, and by the way, positively reinforced. So what that means is that, you know, certain things start to happen. Like you wake up on a Saturday and you don't feel a hangover. That's huge positive reinforcement. That's like really, really cool, really key. And you know, your spouse says, wow, you know, you're really present for me tonight, or I really appreciate this, or whatever. Now, what isn't positive reinforcement is what we, you know, can sometimes do is like, oh, how long is that going to last? Or, you know, we already are waiting for the other shoe to drop and we're living kind of in this limbo. But like positive reinforcement, we can give it to ourselves. We can give it to ourselves if we're exercising. We can go and we can just like, you know, keep a little check mark or whatever and just give ourselves these little bits of positive reinforcement. The beauty of taking a break from alcohol is that the positive reinforcement is built in. Why? Because after the first week, you just feel so much better and you look better. I mean, I literally think I look better at 41 than I did at 35. And that's, that sounded really, oh, okay, focus. Sorry, that sounded really bad. But if I look at pictures of myself, I did have circles under my eyes. I did have like more like acne and rosacea. I had just like this look around me that was a bit hollowed out. And I do feel like I look better. And I certainly know I feel better. So positive reinforcement doesn't have to be that you need a cheerleading squad. Although in the Naked Mind Intensive, you do get a phenomenal cheerleading squad of literally lifelong friends. I mean, the friendships that are built inside of there, because we really get to know each of your stories and each of your journeys. But you don't need that. You just really need that. So those are three of the keys. What's amazing is the intensive is on me looking through all of Spontaneous Sobriety and saying, okay, what are these keys? Because if we can do it in 12 weeks and really find freedom, or if we can do it even in a year, come on, it's 16, like I think it was 18 to 20 years that most people start to when they stop. That would have given me 8 more years. 8 more years of drinking as much as I was. And I mean, I didn't want to be there at all. So again, just if you're joining in right now, this is your official invitation to this Naked Mind Intensive. Consider it. We're starting on the 1st. It's going to be incredible. You guys, it always is. It's amazing. There's such good, you know, money back guarantees. Like if it doesn't work for you, like you shouldn't be paying for it. It is great to pay for something like this though, by the way. People are like, wow, it's expensive. Here's the thing. It is not more expensive than drinking every day. We did actually a survey for how much it costs, how much intensive members drink and how much they spend. And it was $13 to $15 a day. The intensive is less than that. And it's $9.97. And so yeah, sticker shock. Oh my gosh, it's $1,000. What are you talking about? That's insane. But like I have saved $40,000 to $50,000 on alcohol. That's a lot of money. And it just keeps going. And all of the, I mean, it's just crazy. But here's the reality. If you put your money into something, you pay attention, you focus. And if it doesn't work for you, we'll give you your money back. I'm not trying to make this something that, you know, there's no negativity here. There's no part of me that is trying to like just sell you something that doesn't work. I have a marketing background. You may or may not know that. And I have spent a lot of my life selling things I don't believe in. I've spent a lot of my life, you know, trying to think of consumer behavior and using things for something. I mean, I was in foreign currency. That is literally selling your money to you in a different form. So euros to pounds, dollars to euros, and charging you for it. So I'm selling you your own money and I'm charging you for it. That's what my mind was on. How do I do that? How do I do that well, right? Now this has saved me. Saved me, and now literally saved thousands and thousands and thousands of other people. We have 110,000 people have gone through the alcohol experiment by itself, and I think we're close to 20,000 people going through the intensive. I mean, it works, and like I said, it's risk-free. It is risk-free. And so I want you to consider it. It's nakedmindcourse.com. So I'm gonna answer some questions here. And again, okay, so spontaneous sobriety. It is, in a nutshell, when people go back to drinking at levels that are no longer harmful or not drinking at all. So basically they overcome their addiction. It is 75% of people do this. On average, some of the statistics I say said it can take 18 to 20 years, which is the only negative part of it. The intensive is meant to shorten that. It's like a decade and a day, bring it way back and really give you your power back sooner. And it is much, much, much more effective. We're talking upwards, the statistics say up to 59% more people just are better, like forever better. Whereas, you're talking between 3 and 10%, depending what statistic you look at for traditional treatment. And so spontaneous sobriety, again, it's without traditional treatment. And the 3 keys are, you have to believe you can do it. You have to regain your power and your locus of control, which is what we focus on first and foremost. You do not stop drinking right away with this Naked Mind Intensive, because we don't want to create all that more drama. We just want to give you your power back. That's what we do first. Key 2 is has to be positive, has to be compassion-led, compassion-based, okay? And number 3 is you adopt a new non-stigmatized identity. So it's still a new identity. You're still saying, yeah, I am something, but yeah, my name's Annie Grace and I don't drink. That's my new identity. And I'm a non-drinker and I love it. And I think it's amazing. So Trish says, just use willpower is what my spouse always says. So Trish, you can tell your spouse, if you want to, I don't know, you can decide what to do with this information, that willpower is, the newest science says that willpower is like a muscle. Yeah, muscles can get stronger. You can build your willpower to an extent, but any muscle fatigues. It doesn't matter if you are Arnold Schwarzenegger in his prime, it will fatigue over time if you do too many reps. And willpower doesn't discriminate. So what that means is if you've had a hard day taking care of the kids, or you've had a hard day at work, or you're trying to pay attention for something, or you've already used your willpower not having those, Oreos at lunch, and then somebody hands you a drink, your willpower is already depleted. So similar to you've already done 20 reps with this one bicep, and then somebody hands you a weight, you can't do as many because your willpower's been depleted. So willpower works a lot more like a muscle. You don't actually have a finite reserve or an infinite reserve of willpower. And so human beings, we can do things on willpower for a short amount of time. Absolutely, we can, over and over, but it doesn't stick. It's not long-term. It's not our new identity. When you adopt a new identity, and that's what we do in the intensive, is you get to the point where you don't want to drink anymore. You want to be a different person. You desire it, because we only, over the long term, do the things we feel like doing. And when we feel like doing something, oh my gosh, the whole game changes. The whole game changes. If I feel like a runner, it was so easy for me to run. I had a few babies, 3, and I don't feel like a runner anymore. And it's not easy for me to run. But when I adopted that identity, when I felt like a runner, it was so easy. It was actually harder for me not to run because I felt antsy and twitchy all day. It is harder for my dad not to get on his bike than to get on his bike, right? Because you adopt a new identity. It would be almost impossible for me to have a drink right now because it would be so incongruent with who I believe myself to be and who I am in the world and how I want to feel and how I want to show up every day. And so that doesn't take any willpower. That's getting out of the willpower game altogether. And we focus really, really deep on willpower. Yay, Jean, congratulations on 2 years alcohol-free. Yes, you can absolutely do it. Heather says traditional inpatient is 2 to 3% success rate. Look it up, and it can cost upward of $30,000. This is my choice over those odds and that cost. Yay, Heather, that's amazing, so good. Cher says, I'm watching this. My husband sat down to me with a nice, extremely fragrant glass of Merlot. Oh my God, oh, that's sorry to laugh, but it's just so typical. And that's the beauty of the intensive. Again, it's at nakedmindcourse.com if you're just joining us. And I'm going to talk just all about the intensive now. So. You'll have to rewatch this if you want to get the 3 keys for spontaneous sobriety if you're just tuning in. But the beauty of it is that would, I would smell it, you smell alcohol intensely, but it wouldn't bother or trigger me once you've gone through this mindset shift, once you really understand and see it for how it is. It's just really, really good. So love it. The new identity of a non-drinker. So good. That's so good. You guys, you're so supportive of each other. I love this. This is so good. So let's see. Just trying to see if there's any more comments. Been 12 days. Yay, Margie. Starting to feel like I used to. Still extremely tired. It's been 21 years. Tired, it will take a little bit. It really will. Your body just takes a really, really, it just starts to take care. It says, oh, oh, I'm going to be able to sleep a little bit. You're going to take care of me. Because this is the thing, drinking, it's not popular news, but it's just the truth, is that alcohol interrupts your REM sleep. And that is the sleep that you really need for so many things. They've done studies on mice, and mice like can go psychotic without enough REM sleep. Some of them actually, I think, died in the study. And alcohol interrupts your ability to have deep REM sleep. So when you cut it out of your system and your body starts sleeping again, people generally do need to sleep a lot, and that's totally okay. Sarah says 756 minimum for 3 months of my wine. I know, right? I was on the high end because I was also traveling a lot and eating out a lot. I mean, I think I spend a lot. Maureen, Annie's program saved me. Oh, thank you so much, Maureen. You're just so awesome. Although I sleep away, I'm always tired. Does it ever go away? It does go away. And it's interesting because alcohol is such a numbing thing that alcohol can sometimes numb a lot of the things that we actually need to figure out. So, maybe you have an iron deficiency. I know that was something for me I had when I started to figure out my stuff. And it was funny because I approached it from like, okay, I'm still feeling some things that are weird. I know it can't be alcohol. I've done all this research. I guarantee you it's not alcohol that's giving me the extra shot of like energy every day, or that's, making me somehow feel better. So what is it? What is going on? And so a few of my things is that I'd have really intense mood swings. And I went and got tested, and I was borderline hypoglycemic, which just means now I know I need to eat protein in small meals throughout the day. And it's amazing. It's changed my whole life around. And so things like that, you start to uncover and you start to say, oh, maybe I'm tired because I actually have an iron deficiency, and I actually address it. That's the incredible thing, is these feelings that we have, whether they're emotional feelings or physical feelings, they're there to show us something. They're there to say, hey, you, come here. Maybe it's a little whisper, but come here. This is what you need next. This is how to take care of yourself next. And when we pour alcohol onto it and numb them, we lose our ability to listen to our inner guidance and inner wisdom. And I know you've probably heard me say this before, but if you've been around at all, like, I so believe that the answers are truly inside you. I mean, that's what all of this literature proves on spontaneous sobriety. This proves that human beings, we know how to save ourselves. When the rubber hits the road, the wisdom that you need is inside of you. It also says, like, there's a lot of things we can do to awaken that wisdom within each other and to help us remember that we have it all. And so the first thing we do within the intensive is we put down those weapons of blame and shame, because those weapons that we use, and by the way, we don't use those with bad intention. My method of beating myself up into trying to drink less was in order to try to drink less. Like, I was trying everything I knew how to change my behavior. And so I was doing it with good intention, but it was such the wrong approach, because all I was doing was just beating myself up and being on this constant cycle of just like misery. Like, I couldn't even look at myself in the mirror without getting upset. It was just awful. And so through that time, through those moments, when I put that down and started to really rekindle, like, oh, I'm going to listen to the voice that says, hey, you're a little tired. Maybe you should check that out. Hey, you're a little emotional. Hey, this is a hard day. Maybe you're doing too much. I mean, all sorts of crazy stuff ends up happening in the intensive. Like, people are like, you know what? I've realized that I have 3 kids and they shouldn't all be in 3 activities each. Why? Better for the kids, better for them. And this is totally nothing to do with your kids or your activities, just an example that something that happens when you realize, like, wow, when I'm not pouring alcohol on my life just to get through it, just to numb myself enough to maintain, I start saying, what does my life need to look like? I go from living, my friend Stacy, she says, from living by default to living by design. Like, I go from just surviving. That's what I did. I was just surviving. And by the way, I was surviving because I was numbing, to, okay, there's certain things I don't want to tolerate anymore. There's certain things I actually want to be mindful about. And you get to choose. We're adults. We get to choose all of these things. It's so good, you guys. So amazing. Let's see if there's any other questions in here. I know it's like boring when somebody's scrolling for the questions. These comments are so awesome. Trish, I worked it out. I spent $480 a month on wine. I was right there with you, and my husband was spending at least equally the same. So, oh, you guys, congratulations, 6 days, 9 days. Congratulations, Barbara. Congratulations, Cheryl. Congratulations, Pam. This is just awesome. 33 days, yay, this is so good. Can you elaborate on going through the empowerment process and not totally quitting alcohol at the same time? Yes. So often we come to something and we're like, okay, sugar cleanse, no sugar as of today. But we wake up the next morning and we haven't actually worked on our mindset. We still want sugar just as bad as we did yesterday. We still are just as physically addicted to all the sugar. I'm just using sugar as an example. I guess I could use alcohol. But we're still just as, we're still having the same, and it's not, just to be really clear, according to the CDC, 90% of excessive drinkers, meaning for women, more than 8 drinks a week is considered excessive. For men, more than 15 drinks a week is considered excessive. So 90% of people who are drinking excessively are not chemically dependent, not clinically dependent. That means they're not going to have withdrawal symptoms like delirium tremens, need medical supervision. Okay, if you're in that 10%, right away we go through some stuff and you need to work with your doctor if you end up doing the intensive, or sometimes it's better just to be medically supervised when you want to make a change. The intensive works on your mindset, because the truth is there's a, and I did another Facebook Live about this like 3 days ago, I think, and it was just on this distinction between what's happening physically in the body and what's happening emotionally and mentally in the body. Because physically, your body can recalibrate and rebalance within 7 to 10 days, right? The alcohol gets out of your system within like 72 hours, I think it is, and then your body needs to rebalance because alcohol is a depressant. So you've been pouring a depressant, your body wants to maintain homeostasis. And so it actually, releases stimulants like adrenaline and cortisol. And then you take the alcohol away and you have this overstimulation. You're like feeling like out of sorts, but that's only for about a week to rebalance. And so the question is, we want to go through all of that early intensity after we've had the really profound mindset shift, because then going through that physical rebalancing doesn't feel like, oh, this sucks, I'm never going to do this, because that's what you would think, right? Yesterday I love to drink, today I signed up for the intensive, I'm going to stop drinking. I still feel like I love to drink. I still have all my reasons that I drink. I still have all the stressors in my life. I still have everything. Nothing has changed except I've taken alcohol out of the equation. And then all of a sudden I take alcohol out of the equation and I'm piling on the physical aspect of the first week without alcohol, which even if you're just, drink a few glasses of wine a day, there's still a physical aspect. And so very quickly you're like, why am I doing this? This sucks, which by the way is the cycle that all of us have been in probably if we're trying to stop drinking anyway. That's certainly the cycle I was in. Nothing changed in my life. I hadn't addressed any of the reasons, took out alcohol because I thought that was the solution, felt awful, drink again. And then down the spiral as that continued, and eventually to the point where I didn't feel like I had any power left. And at that point, you don't believe you can do it. So you've lost the number one thing you need, which is the locus of control. So the break from trying to stop drinking, we call it the pause. We put down the weapons of shame and blame. We learn why we're drinking in the first place, not only internally, like why is Annie Grace drinking in my life? Like what stressors do I have? And we do that in coaching and group coaching. But we also learn, why is alcohol so attractive to me, even when it's not doing what it said it's going to do? Because I know for me, I was desperate for a drink, even though I wasn't even getting drunk anymore, despite drinking an entire bottle of wine or two. So like, why? We unravel all of that science. And then when you finally get it, you're like, oh, I get it. And then day one is like, awesome. I know this is going to feel a little bit bad, but it's going to be like having the flu, because on the other side, I am healed, because you dealt with your mental stuff first. Now, a lot of people ask me, they say, Annie, but can I come into the intensive and have, like, I'm already on day 33, I'm already on day 40, I don't want to start again. Absolutely. And so many people, like I've had people come into not only the intensive, but even just read This Naked Mind, who have been years alcohol free, but have still retained a desire to drink. They still really want to drink. And so to some degree, even though they've made it a habit, they're still using willpower, because if it was just up to them based on their current mindset, they would pick up a drink. But there's all this extra stuff. They know it's, not good for them in their lives anymore. And they've made the decision not to, but they still retain the desire. And so people, even after years, will come into the intensive, and we had someone join the intensive after being a year alcohol free. And she's like, oh my gosh, I'm finally really free. Because alcohol free doesn't mean, for me at least, just not drinking. It means free. Free. Like alcohol is small and irrelevant. It's just really free. So, oh, Cass, good to see you. Rarely feel tempted anymore. This is just after 30 days. That's awesome. So good. I find myself drinking even when I really don't want to. Somehow I'm always talking myself into it. Yes, that is just so typical, because there's certain things and certain triggers perhaps that just haven't been looked at and haven't been dealt with. So it's like we just get like, there's just brain patterns around it, especially when it's been very, very, very long. Patty says, what's the difference between the intensive and the 100 days? So the 100 days is meant to be after the alcohol experiment. It's a 3-minute video every day and a little email. And it's all about lasting change. So it's like, okay, you've made your choice, you made your decision. It's all about lasting change. It's just a video and an email. There's no group coaching. There's no live coaching. It's not pre-curriculum. And I guess I should probably go into what exactly the intensive is. So I'll do that in just a minute. But the 100 days comes included in the intensive as well. So if you're really like ready to change, the 100 days is like you basically do it after you've gone through the entire intensive, then you go through, but we sell it separately because people, they do the alcohol experiment, and there's people who the alcohol experiment, that's all it takes. They don't need anything else. They aren't in this situation where they feel still that they have desire to alcohol. So your method works for non-smoking too. That's so awesome. So good. Yay, you guys. Okay, so so I think the best way actually is to just go to nakedmindcourse.com, and you can see all of the, on that page, like you can see what exactly is in the program, the 3 months of coaching support. It's actually priced at less than a single month of coaching, and you like daily access to the coaches. It's going through all of the different weeks, what we do in all of the different weeks, and then how we make the whole thing work. You get the 100 days for free. You get, I created this awesome course that I don't actually sell outside of the intensive, and I called it, it's kind of a funny name. I called it Living Naked. And really for me, this was 18 months of research on, this was after I stopped drinking, on how to get off all my antidepressants. And I don't specifically, you need to just work with your doctor, but it was the things that I had to address in my life and the ways that I had to manage life in order to really not need any medication anymore. And so this is the research that freed me from that. I present it it's a professionally filmed 8-module course. And I don't sell this anywhere else. I keep intending to kind of make it available, but for now it's totally only available in the intensive, and it's totally free with the intensive. The 100 days, $197, it's also totally free with the intensive. And then we do, Q&A library. So I think there's almost 150 videos in there now. So all the videos that intensive members previously have asked are in the Q&A library, so you can search for just about anything. And yeah, it just really, really works. Oh, congratulations, you guys. Congratulations, Sheila and Becky and Eileen. I think I'm really behind. So does my husband drink? So Lynn, that's a great story. So I'm very happy to tell this. So when I first started doing this, the whole journey for me started with my book, This Naked Mind. And I remember I had stopped drinking and I was going to publish the book. And Brian, I knew that the decision, Brian is my husband's name, I knew that the decision had to be for me. I was very, very clear on that. And so I was really made the decision for me. And when you make it from a place of I want to, we don't need our husbands to necessarily start doing yoga with us or, start whatever, Pilates or whatever the case is, right? We decide these things because we want to do them, and that's fine if they do or they don't. It doesn't really matter to us. And that's where I was. But Brian, I was like, okay, I'm going to publish this book. I'm going to push publish. You still haven't read it, because he told me very early on, he's like, whatever you're doing, I love you, I support you, but that's your thing. I'm never not going to drink. I don't have a problem with it. I'm never not going to drink. It's your thing. So I was like, all right. And so, but I was like, okay, but you still need to read the book, because I talk about everything in here. I need to make sure that it's okay with you that I tell this much about our life and all this stuff. And so he read the book. He's like, okay, cool. But just so you know, and he reiterated, I'm just, this is your thing. This is not my thing. I was like, okay, that's fine. And so I go, and I remember about a year later or something, I remember we were at a concert, we went to see Mice and Men. It was very good. And I was like, hey, what do you want to drink? And I was going to go buy him whatever, a beer, and get myself a drink. He's like, just give me whatever you're getting. It's like, okay, cool. And so I brought him back a vodka. I brought him back a cranberry and lime, and he was like all good on it. And I was like, oh, interesting. That's weird. And then about 6 months after that, he goes to see his college team, our college team, we met in college, play football at Colorado State University. And he's like, usually spends the night because they're all drinking. And he called me at 11 o'clock. He's like, hey, I'm headed home. And I was like, oh, really? He's like, yeah, I didn't drink anything, just didn't really want to. And I mean, that was pretty much it. And that was at least 3 years ago now, maybe 4. And now he'll be like, yeah, I don't drink. But like, it was just this very gradual thing. And I think one of the things is I literally had no expectations. And so we do talk about that in intensive, specifically in the Q&A library. I go into the whole story. And he actually tells the story from his perspective. And like, it's just really interesting when you know you're doing it for yourself. I think that's really, really the key things. So Rachel says 26 out of 27 days, 96.26% success. Yes, that is exactly how you want to think about it. I absolutely love that. Yes, the research. Will I share the research? Okay. So the first study is this study. So you could pause it and screenshot it. I'm not going to read it all out because that will be a bit crazy. And then the second study is this study. So you can pause it and screenshot it. And that is the research. And I'll put it in the comments. So Heather, we try to offer it 2 or 3 times a year. The question is, if I miss this intensive, will it be offered again? Yes, I think so. I cannot promise because and this is not like a fake scarcity thing. I don't do that. I'm literally trying to think about how I do this in the best possible way. And so there may be some changes, which may include the intensive not being offered again. But if it is not offered, it will be something different, but equally as good. But we usually offer it. I think the next one we had tentatively scheduled is like May or June. So anyway, sorry, I don't know any more about that. $600 a month when I drank, over $1,000 a month when I was a drinker. So true. It's just crazy. All right. Oh, you guys have so many comments. This is so great. Annie, can you suggest the best way to support a partner doing the experiment? Tanya, this is such a good question. And actually, and this is an offer for anybody. Sorry, Jeanette. Jeanette's going to get your emails and be like, what? Anyway, Scott and I just recorded a course, and it's called Help a Loved One. And if you are somebody who wants to help a loved one, you can email us at hello@thisnakedmind.com. And it is not like polished up or anything. It's literally just a page with a lot of links to videos. But if you want to watch it. I'd love to get feedback for stuff before I actually put it out available to the public. So if you want to email me, Trish, email hello@thisnakedmind.com and say, I would love access to that Help a Loved One course. I'm very happy to give that to you. And you can just let us know what you think. That would be great. And that has all the details about how to help somebody. Michelle, is there a set time and day that the intensive will take place? So usually what we do is we do either a survey for the times that work best for everybody, and then we offer multiple calls. And so every single day is, you get pre-recorded curriculum, which is between 5 and 20 minutes. It's only available in the intensive. And then there's exercises and worksheets, and then there's a coaching community, and then we have live coaching calls. And so those are what are flexible. And the replays are always available if you happen to miss one. But we have a global audience, always have. It's beautiful. Such amazing friendships come out of this program. And so that is, we accommodate all sorts of different times, and we make sure to mess it up. So, hey, Rob. Let's see. Oh, thanks. You guys are responding for me. You guys are so awesome. All right, I'm trying to see if there's any more questions. This is like such a robust conversation here that I cannot keep up. This is so great. This is amazing. I'm really glad that my internet held out because it's snowing here. And that usually is not fun for me. I live in the mountains. 41 days. Congratulations, Karen, 36 days. Oh, you're so welcome, Melissa. I'm so glad. That's so wonderful. So, so Sheila, so go to nakedmindcourse.com. It's $997. It is a 3-month group coaching program with pre-recorded curriculum, as well as lots and lots of bonuses, courses we don't give anywhere else. And it is like all of the details are on there in terms of what we go over, but literally it is in order to set you free from willpower and in order to really fast track spontaneous sobriety, even if that doesn't mean that you're going to be abstinent or sober forever. Not everybody is. But it really is to come to a place where you decide what is right for you. And that's by giving you back control. You take a pause, you put down the weapons of blame and shame. You learn all of the science around why you were doing it in the first place. We address the underlying reasons why you're drinking. And yeah, really go into that. So awesome. All right, you guys. Yay, Tracy. So excited to see you in there. It's so great. Woohoo. That's going to be awesome. So cool. All right, I think that I got most of the questions. We'll be in the comments responding to any questions. And again, if you have any more questions, just email us, hello@thisnakedmind.com, or put them here. We will definitely respond to every single question in the comments. Again, nakedmindcourse.com. And yeah, have a wonderful day, you guys. Talk soon.